Hello guys, my name is Maddie and welcome back or welcome to Maddie's Tech Help. This is my educational YouTube channel which is all about teaching those who are new to the internet how to use the internet. And today's episode is going to be focused on easy, simple, and free ways to make your machine run faster. We are also going to start with the easiest methods first and then work up to the more difficult ones later on. I am just going to minimize my screen to make space for my desktop. Alright, and the first and one of the easiest ways to speed up our computer is to take a look at what programs and how many tabs we have running. And as you can see here, I have tons of tabs in the background, multiple programs open, and this is drastically going to slow down the speed of our computer. And how do we fix that? Simply go through and close out our tabs. Same thing with programs. Only leave open the things you're actually using at the moment to make the most out of your computer's resources. Now, another way to make your computer run faster is if you go to your Windows option and then you go to your settings, then click Apps. You can go through and see all of the programs that are installed on your computer. It's always a good idea to scroll through your apps and make sure that there aren't any lying around that you're not using. Now, this won't make the biggest difference in the world when it comes to speed, but it is a crucial part of computer maintenance because everything that you have installed does take up space, which is limited. My only caution is to be careful what you uninstall, and if you're not sure what something is, it's always best to give it a quick Google search and see if you should really be uninstalling it or not, just to make sure that you don't uninstall anything that will do damage to your system. I definitely recommend staying away from apps like driver setup and anything that's pre-installed with the Microsoft Corporation. Of course, there's things like the Xbox Game Bar that you for sure don't need, but just be careful with anything you're unfamiliar with. Once you've uninstalled any apps here that you don't use, we can move on to the next method. To get out of here, you simply click the red arrow in the right corner. And now this step is a little bit trickier and you do have a bit more power with this one, so be careful. But simply right click on your Windows Start button until you see something called Task Manager. It's right here. We'll just click that to open it. And Task Manager is a built-in service that shows everything that's running on your computer. To get a better view, we can hit the square to maximize it so we can see. I know this looks a little complicated, but you don't really need to know the ins and outs of everything listed. The CPU is kind of like the brain of your computer, its thinking power. Memory is how much information it can quickly access and load fast. The more full your memory is, the slower things are going to load for you. Your disk space is just how much information your computer can write down. And you may not have a GPU because sometimes the CPU and GPU can be together. But your GPU just focuses on video stuff. But the main takeaway is you just need to look for any outliers that are taking up a lot of space. Now, of course, mine would be OBS Studio right here, but I'm not going to close that out because I'm recording right now. But just be careful with Task Manager. It is a great tool to be able to go through and pick out any apps that are taking up a lot of space. I wouldn't recommend going through the background processes unless you're familiar with them. This is also a great place to go if anything gets hung or frozen, meaning if you tried to launch something a long time ago and it's just frozen in spot and not loading, you can go here to forcibly end the task. And you do that by clicking on the task and then clicking End Task. Don't panic if you see these numbers drastically fluctuate. The more processes you're running, the higher these numbers are going to be. Just try not to stay in the 90s or above for a really long time because that's putting your computer under a lot of stress. But that actually isn't the most useful part of Task Manager. If we go over to the Startup tab right here, we just click on it, we can see everything that's loaded up every time we press the power button on our computer. Now, if it takes your computer a long time after you've hit the power button to get to the login screen, this is the place where you can fix it. Notice I have a lot of things disabled, and I definitely recommend you disable some things too. Microsoft Teams is a killer for boot up times. Now, definitely leave things like your virus protection alone or some services like this that you don't know what they do. But you can definitely disable things like Steam and your OneDrive. Basically, if you go through here and you see any applications that you do not need to be loading the second you hit the power button on your computer, definitely hit disable. And you disable a task by clicking on the task and then clicking over in the bottom right corner over here and then clicking disable. And you'll notice how it went from enabled to disabled. When you disable something, that doesn't mean that you can't load it ever. It just means that it does not immediately start loading the second you press the power button to turn on your computer. This is a great tool because it dramatically decreases the amount of time it takes to boot up your computer. You can also see the startup impact over here in this column. Anything that's rated high means it takes a lot to load it and is really slowing down your boot time, and anything that's low means it doesn't really make an impact. But some things you definitely want to make sure are disabled are Microsoft Teams, Microsoft OneDrive, and Spotify. Spotify is a big one for slowing down your boot up time. Just a word of caution, you definitely want to leave any Wi-Fi or virus protection enabled because these are functions that you need to start working as soon as possible, right after you hit the power button. If we look over here in the corner, we can see my last BIOS time was 2.1 seconds, but I guarantee you if I enabled all of this stuff, it would be a lot slower. And with that, we can close the Task Manager screen. We can either hit the red X here, or we can go to Processes, and then click Task Manager, and then hit End Task to instantly free up those resources. Another thing you can do is go into your files and delete any extra files you have lying around. Once again, this won't directly speed up your machine, but it is just good computer maintenance practice. Another method we can use to speed up our machine is defragging or optimizing. Now, depending on what type of device you have, you'll do one or the other, but to get to it, you can simply type defrag, and this will pop up in your search bar. They're grouped together, so you can just double click this to launch it. They're just two different categories of storage devices. You don't really need to know the difference because it automatically selects what needs to be done for you. But if you have a solid state drive like me, you just simply click optimize and it will quickly run a trim command, which just helps organize the files on your storage device. If you have a hard drive, this process won't be as fast. And instead of doing something called optimizing, you will defrag, where you will hit the analyze button and it will analyze your device and then it will run defrag. And this process can be a lengthy one, so it's a good idea to start this up whenever you can just leave your computer sit for a while when you don't need to use it. What this does is it essentially organizes the information on your storage medium, that way your computer can access information faster. It just overall speeds everything up and is a good computer maintenance strategy. You can also schedule your computer to do this automatically for you. If you see the Scheduled Optimization tab down here, you can just click Change Settings and then select a frequency. Make sure you have Run on a Schedule selected, and there's an option for increasing the task priority if it misses it 3 times in a row. This is just to ensure that your drive gets taken care of. You can also hit Choose. Make sure you select All because you want to make sure all your devices are getting taken care of. And then we're going to hit OK and then close. And with that, your computer will automatically take care of itself for you. Something you can do to make your web browser run faster is to click the 3 little dots over here and then right click the More Options and then click Clear Browsing Data. If you click Clear Browsing Data, you're just going to be able to clean out everything that is in your web browser. Now, make sure you have good password practices, otherwise uncheck this as it will log you out of all of your websites. Cookies and site data, you're good to get rid of that. Browsing history, download history, cached images is a good thing to get rid of as well. Autofill form will also mess with your login, so if you don't have good password practices, make sure you uncheck that and then hit Clear Now. And now your web browser should run a little smoother, especially if you haven't cleared out your browser for a while. And the final tip to make your Windows device run a little faster is to click the Windows button right here in the bottom corner and then hit the Settings gear. Go to Update and Security and check for any Windows updates. And if you're like me and you have any updates that you haven't installed yet, downloading them will speed up your device. This will speed up your device because later on, when you're trying to do more tasks, you will have more free resources available because Windows will have it downloading in the background, whether it's when it's convenient for you or not. So it's best to just bite the bullet and hit install. And that brings us to the end of the tutorial. Today we have learned many new methods and strategies for speeding up our desktop devices. I hope that you guys learned something from this video today, or at least that I repeated the phrase close your tabs enough times to instill that belief within you. I hope that these methods and strategies benefit you guys and they speed up your devices. And with that, guys, thank you guys so much for watching the video and have a fabulous day.